He can't hear the jingle.
Nah, I can't hear a jingle, but I'm still moving to it. It's like a silent disco.
We're bringing the fun. We're bringing the thunder. We are Funder. Flesh and blood down under. I hope I don't stuff this up, guys. Malharaba Kifek?
No, you stuffed it up.
Oh, God. Team, we've got Team Arab in the house.
Well, sort of, yeah.
Half.
Quarter here, baby. Represent.
Hey.
Yeah, so there's only one Arab in the room is what we're saying.
Oh, don't be like that.
Well, welcome, Noah.
Thanks for having me, guys. Pleasure
To
be
those uninitiated in the Australian scene, Noah is our one and only level 2 judge.
here. Sadly.
The OG.
The OG, the one and only.
We just finished up with the Uprising world premiere in Sydney. He was the head judge. We thought, hey, you know what? We want to talk about it now that we've done it, but why not bring him in? So he's here.
Yeah, me.
Nice to have you, man.
Yes, thanks
guys.
for being with us.
Yeah, it's been a fun weekend, so looking forward to having a chat with you guys about it.
Awesome.
Well, first thing, Noah, how did you get into Flesh and Blood? Tell me everything. I want the little details. When, where? Paint a picture for us.
It's a long story. Starts probably way back towards the end of 2019, not long after the game first came out. I had a friend of mine recommend it to me. So we had the starter decks, obviously all the WTR Hero starter decks, and we're playing a bit at his house. And I kind of really started to fall in love with it. It was one of the first TCGs I ever got into. I played a little bit of Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh! As a kid. But I thought, obviously I was much during school, and obviously post-school I was like, let's get into something a little bit different, more of a hobby. So I got into that. Wasn't till early 2020, not long after Arcane Rising came out, that I had the balls to make my way to an Armory event. Back when Burwood Good Games was a thing, the store down at Burwood.
Shout out Ryan Coward.
Shout out Ryan. And one of my first ever
Was that the wrong store?
That's the wrong
That's the
store.
wrong.
That's the
Sorry,
wrong
Ryan
store.
Coward.
So I was like, what?
Yeah, I didn't know that either. I was just going with it. But yeah, one of my first ever opponents was Mr. Hayden Dale, the one and only.
Ooh.
Who?
Ooh.
Yeah, who?
So that was your first date. That was your first Flesh and Blood date.
First-
Sanction match.
Yep. And it was an initiation to say all things. So not long before that, I bought a couple online retailer. I bought a couple box of Arcane Rising. I thought, Viscerai sounds fun. Bit of arcane damage, bit of physical, a little bit of spice. I was like, cool. So I was like, all right. So rocked up. So I built a CC deck. Probably spent a good portion of 6 hours trying to build it, figure out what I'm doing. Rock up to the Armory, sit down across Hayden Dale, presenting a 76 card deck, 4 equipment, no weapon.
Timmy.
And that was a sight to see. Hayden on aggro dash, back before control dash was a thing, steamrolled me. And the funny thing is, didn't even realize I wasn't running a weapon. Didn't realize it at all. It took the next game for someone else to comment, you meant to have a weapon? And look at me now, level 2 judge, no weapon.
do you remember how many people were at that Armory?
There was 8 of us.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
So we had enough to fire. We usually do drafts. They said they usually do drafts, but they're playing Classic Instructor because Arcane Rising just came out.
So, what got you into judging though?
Judging was more curiosity, I think. Definitely curiosity on how to be a better player, how to understand the game. And obviously, there was I have a lot of friends who are Magic judges. So Ryan Lewis-Johns from the old RC crew, he was a Magic judge. And we were kind of tossing and turning between both of us. Obviously, we both became judges and applied when it first came out. And obviously, in this gateway to becoming the highest level judge in Australia, obviously you had to judge nationals. So it was tossing and turning. We'll have an argument between each other, and we'll decided that if I take this first one, he takes the next one.
Yep.
And yeah, that's kind of the story and how I kind of got there, really. It was very interesting, that's for sure.
What was your first event you judged?
First event was RTN for RC Crew.
Mm-hmm.
It was virtual though because of COVID over Discord. But yeah, they let me head judge that one. Obviously get some experience. It was obviously I wasn't a Magic judge previous to this. I had zero experience. So obviously it was a good stepping stone, something small. A little bit easier, not having to run around the rooms, just jumping between different rooms, different tables. And it was good. that was definitely my first experience. It was a fun one at that as well.
How many judges are there in Australia? Like, what are we talking?
That is a good question. But I think Australia probably has the fewest judges, just basically on the population, so spread. But I'd probably say max maybe 50, 50 judges. You get a better, from the Judge Hub website, you get a better understanding of that.
What do you think of the actual fab judging? Like, you don't have experience to relate it to. What's your opinion on it in a bubble?
In a bubble...
pros and cons.
It's not easy. Obviously, there's a lot of steps. Obviously, like, just not being able to experience any other game, there's a lot of, like, steps and processes to a turn that a lot of people don't see just playing out.
Yeah.
The turn, there's, like...
shortcuts.
Yeah, there's, like, they just shortcut it through. Like, there's damage calculation, there's, like, resolution step, chain link resolution. There's so much going on in a turn that, obviously, you don't see that as a player because you're like, cool, I deal 3 damage, you take 3 damage. But there's like several steps before the damage actually comes through and then you can swing again. There's a lot of stuff.
We've had a few of our newer players. I think, well, he's not that new anymore, but Mr. Champion was judging.
Brendan Champion, yeah.
Brendan, yeah.
He was with me at the calling, judging with me.
Yeah, yeah. It's good to see like players do it, even if they're not planning to judge. It definitely makes them a better player. Yeah,
Valentine.
Valentine as well, yeah.
He was judging. It was great to see a lot of our local players judging.
ProQuest winner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
Yeah.
So question, like, to me, you know, because I have a bit of experience in Magic, like interacting with judges, never a judge myself, obviously, but it comes down to, like, in my mind, I think the 2 attributes to make a good judge is, like, have a solid understanding of the rules, but also have good bedside manners, right? Be able to communicate effectively with others, you know. That's just my opinion. In you being the head judge and what you've seen, what would you think is more important, especially to someone listening, like an aspiring person? Would you say to someone, you know, it's more important to have like a very high level understanding of the rules, or get a good enough understanding, but we're looking for people that are, you know, very good at interacting and talking with others? Like, how would you weigh that up?
I think having good people skills and having the confidence to step in and obviously make changes, make corrections. Because obviously, like, some judge calls are going to ruin someone's game. But obviously having the confidence to do that is probably the biggest thing. Because LSS do an amazing job giving judges the resources, vocabulary to use when making these judge calls. So, and obviously there's a lot of training and resources out there for judges to use on the fly. There's like quick links, there's apps, there's comprehensive rules, there's everything there. So you can, if you're ever unsure, there's always something you can reference to. And obviously there's a judge Discord with a plethora of players on there ready to kind of assist. But I think it's the main thing is having that confidence and those people skills and the ability to communicate well. Obviously those, I think they're probably the most important, I think, to become a judge.
I want to talk about the world premiere. The first one in the world. How was your experience, Mr. Tall Timmy? The people want to know.
At the premiere, just specifically, let's talk about the limited
day
portion.
Day one. Friday.
Awesome. God, playing limited was a breath of fresh air.
House.
Booked out. Look, venue 10 out of 10. Right in the centre of the Sydney of City. It was actually in a Masonic lodge. So if we have any Freemasons out there, huge shout out. Love your work. It was a good facility. So hands down, very comfortable.
That was good. It was clean. Everything was...
Acoustics were great. You know, some of those, like, I mean, I've experienced playing tournaments in these, you know, big warehouses with these concrete floor pavilions and the sound is bouncing around everywhere and you can't hear the person in front of you. But, you know, this place was very intimate. You know, it had a lot, you know, carpet floors. You know, it was very nice. Acoustics.
The chairs were actually comfortable.
Chairs were like, you know, leather or pleather. I'm not too sure, but they were comfortable. You know, I could sit in those bad boys all day. So venue was on point. Place was packed. Energy was high. And playing limited was a breath of fresh air, especially like relatively new players such as myself. And I suppose a lot of people that would be tuning in right now, you know, I'd say 80 to 90% of, you know, me, 95, 99% of all my Flesh and Blood experience has been in Constructed.
Yeah.
So getting the opportunity to play limited in Flesh and Blood, it really was a breath of fresh air.
And you, Noah, didn't get to play.
Sadly
you worked.
not. Yeah, I had
Yeah.
to work through it.
Yeah.
But
How
I
was your
think
experience though?
the
Sorry, is that your first big flesh and blood event? I was at Nationals. That was 70, 80 people because it was still COVID restrictions.
and we lost half.
Was this
the
your biggest?
country? It was. Yes, it definitely was. Judging was definitely the biggest. I think the peak we hit almost 350 players
Wow.
in the venue, which was a lot of fun. But it was definitely good. I think the atmosphere made it so much better to get through the tough days. Because in comparison, Madrid had same amount of players, roughly just over 300, 350. But they had almost, I think, 28 judges,
Wow.
while we had less than half that at 11 judges. So obviously,
There's only 11 judges there.
yeah,
Wow, you guys did-
over the 3 days.
Let's
Over the 3
touch on
days,
that before
yeah.
you finish
Guys did
because
a
that's
great
something
job.
I'd be very curious about. How do judges get recruited? Like if someone said we need more judges, it would probably encourage me to do the test properly. Like I've done it once off the top of my head to see what do I know.
Fail.
100%. You can't do that test off the top of your head.
I did off the top of my head, and I only just passed it as well.
Well, I'm not as good as you,
Yeah.
but
You get there.
Is this like maybe a call to action? Is it? Do we need more in Australia? Is that what you're saying?
I think it's torn between probably do need some more judges, but also we need more judges who are happy to volunteer their time.
Because
and
most
rather
judges
not
would have
play.
been playing.
Yes.
Like I had Judge Sean on my team. There's no way he was judging. He's like, I'm playing the call.
Yeah, 100%. Like it's a once in
Yeah.
a lifetime event.
Mm.
Like you're never going to have a world premiere where you get to open 6 packs.
No,
of
you
the
just get
set.
to open a whole box that evening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, it's just
So
Amazing.
what I'm hearing now is you need more people, but you need the right people.
yes.
Yeah.
That's what
Yes.
that's what I'm hearing.
No, but that's-
right
You
now.
got it in one.
Like if you're listening now, even if you're overseas, like 100%, if we only had 11 and we needed more, like if you could have used double, guys, you would have got, like, first of all, the judge compensation is pretty good.
Yeah, it was.
And
It
it's
was very good.
boxes every day. There's promos. There's play mats for the head judge. Yeah, jump in. How does one become a judge?
Well, obviously, going to the Fab TCG website under the judge section, there's a link to the Judge Hub website, which is obviously the platform that was developed by a level 2 judge out of Europe. Can't remember his name, but he developed it, gave it to Josh, who's the rules guy in LSS, and it's a platform we use to obviously advertise events, connect judges together. You can communicate with judges, email judges. You can do the judge test through that platform. It's definitely the way to go if you're very interested in the rules and looking at obviously getting kicked started as a judge.
Awesome. So what was your favorite moment of day one?
Favorite moment of day one is the table in front of me, and I think it was Andy from Chromatic Games.
Yeah, I was at that table. Yeah.
Whoa.
cracking the Rainbow Foil Fabled.
Oh, did he crack a fable?
No, listen, there's more.
Yeah.
He's a lucky Andy. How are you,
Yeah.
lucky bastard?
Yeah, and then I think he got a legendary or a
Well, he pulled
dragon
the
as well.
double-sided
Oh, the Icelander.
Icelander.
Yes. Which is very sick.
which
Yeah.
I haven't seen many of. That's a very rare card, it seems.
It is a hard hit rate.
Yes.
By the sounds of it.
Yes. You know there's one card we didn't hit in Sydney, it seems, that I've seen floating around. You
What was
boys
it?
aware? You know how there's a double-sided Ash token? Cold foil? Ash wing on the... Did you see that there's a dark-coloured one?
I'd be lying if I didn't say I have one.
That's good. but it's very rare. I haven't seen one in the flesh yet. Yeah.
Because, yeah, I was very lucky enough with one of my judge compensation boxes to get a cold foil
Yeah,
Ash.
those rigged boxes. I bought a few of them. What the heck
And it was
were
on your
those
stream.
boxes? Yeah.
Almost every box had a legendary or a Marvel in it. It
yeah.
was nuts.
It's crazy. Told to be day 2. Calling.
Whoa.
We're summarising,
We
I
got to
know.
we got to wind this back a bit.
Go back.
First thing is, do you recommend that? Do you recommend every player at least attempt to read the comprehensive rules? Is it needed? Is there a summary version of them? Like, should every player do this? Is it worth it?
There's definitely key sections. You wouldn't have to read it all. There's so much detail in there. Some
Yep.
of it's unnecessary to a basic player. But obviously, there's some key sections on like turn cycles, when you can respond with instants, especially if you're a Kano player. There's opportunities to do stuff. Definitely those aspects are obviously the key you want to focus on. So probably, I think it starts at chapter 5 is the turn structure. So if you want to give those a read, they're probably the priority of what you want to.
Turn structure.
Yes.
Section 5.
Yep.
All right, let's do it.
Comprehensive rules.
Comprehensive rules. Well, I cracked my very first legendary in those 6 packs.
No, you didn't.
Yes, I did.
You
My
did.
very first.
And a good one.
Crown of Providence, baby. Rainbow foil. Not too bad.
That's still a great one, though.
Yeah, I know.
It's a great one.
I
You
know.
play with that for ages. Yeah.
I couldn't believe when I opened it. Like, I literally couldn't believe I opened it. And then, my very first, my one and only.
I swear I could hear you screaming like a little girl across the room.
It might have been me or Princess Spike. But no, it was a fun event, like playing limited. I played Fire. I opened up, first time really looking at the cards in detail. I just saw that my Fire stack was the biggest and go, yep, we're going to play that. I played every Draconic and Draconic Ninja card I had.
Threw it all in there.
A few generics, and that made my deck. And it was good.
How'd you go?
I ended up 4-2. Won my first 3, and then I had a very close mirror match. Very, very close. Very tight. He was better player than me. He outplayed me. I didn't think I made any obvious misplays. He just outplayed me. Better player. I think our decks were, equally powered as well. I think my deck was, pretty good. I didn't have the key piece of chest equipment to get that extra resource when you play a red pitch. He did, and when he had his big pivot turn, having that free extra resource to play that extra red card was a huge difference. Plus, he had the heat wave as well. But he didn't have a headpiece. I had 2 extra health, so maybe that nullified it. But yeah, lost that, and then the final round I played against Icelander, and I got rolled because I forgot to sideboard before the game. So all my ward and gain health cards and my more blue pitches, I didn't think to bring them in, and then halfway through the game I realised, I probably should have sideboarded. But yeah, great opponents, great vibe. Everyone was so excited to play. What did you play, John?
Icelander.
How'd you go?
Terrible deck. Though. So I was sitting next to Andy. I pulled nothing. Not even a foil rare. Literally pulled nothing. But I went Icelander because I've played Icelander before. 3-3. I gave away when I won. I let the loser keep the pack. No one pulled anything good, so that's good. I made them open it straight away. But yeah, because I was planning to play the calling. I didn't think I'd have time to draft with them anyway. That set's amazing to play sealed. So we played it sealed. I've drafted it once since then as well. It's fun. It's very fun. It's also fun because it's very obvious when you're going Draconic. You can float between Fire and Dromai for a bit when you're drafting it. It's very obvious when someone's drafting Icelander, like very obvious, I feel.
Because you get cut off on all the wizard cards.
Yeah. Like it's big, but there's not many of them in the set in the pack either. So I think it's easier for newer players, like WTR was. It's very on the nose, and if you draft Fire the whole time and then decide to go Dromai, your cards aren't all useless if you picked all the generic Draconic. So that's good. I found Tails was complicated, way more complicated to draft. Did my head in.
I think that I have a feeling that, on a surface level, people might think that this is, quite easy to draw, and it can be just like Flesh and Blood. On the surface level, the game is, quite easy to learn, quite easy to play, but just like this draft set, I really think over the coming months, you're going to see the draft format evolve.
For sure.
And there's going to be like multiple synergies that you can draft with a single hero. So I just don't think it's as...
No, but it's very easy to I don't think anyone's running baubles is what I'm trying to say. I think you get in and you very much can draft it with not much knowledge. There's plenty of generics and good ones. But yes, there's always going to be... there's a high cap for skill level there for sure.
Oh yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
But that's draft in general. It just feels like something I could grab a new player, fairly new, that know the rules and draft with them, and they'll have a good experience.
Yeah.
It's not hard. Well, like I said, the fusing mechanic, everything entails to build the right ratios. I found impossible as a new player. I was like, I can never fuse. I never have enough earth. I never have enough ice. It was very tricky to draft. You've drafted a bit more than me probably because you would have practiced. What do you find this is like compared to Tails and Monarch and others?
This is definitely up there. I haven't obviously drafted a lot with it just yet. I've just had a few drafts with some friends. But obviously, I think my favorite drafting so far is WTR and Monarch.
Monarch. I'm surprised.
A lot of people say Monarch.
Yeah, Monarch's a very great set to draft.
Awesome.
But this set is feeling really good. I think, obviously, like you mentioned, there's a lot of skill caps. You can obviously have a very fun draft with all your like friends, just casually over a few beers. But obviously, you can have a lot of high skilled drafts, and we're seeing that in like LSS is making Road to Nationals, the Pro Tour, Nationals, partially draft
heavy.
Yeah. Obviously, because this set is built and obviously going to perform really well in the limited format, which I'm very much looking forward to.
What are your feelings on how it might shake up the constructed meta, both Blitz and Classic?
Whatever his feelings are, I can't wait for the new meta, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot changing.
It's going to be a lot changing.
Yeah.
Obviously, no one knows. Until like the first big calling, which I think is in Utrecht.
Utrecht, yep.
Indulge us, speculate.
Oh, wait. Or Utrecht, then Singapore? Is that how it's going to be?
Singapore's second last week of August, yeah.
Yeah.
And then it's PT Lille,
yeah.
which is split format, which will be fun.
Yep. There's a few battle hardens they announced today before that too, so we'll know a little bit more then.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yep.
Talking about battle hardens, I've booked and
Me too.
going to Auckland.
Oh yeah.
So who's going to see us over there? Timmy, you coming with us?
Come on, Timmy.
God, I
Timmy told me he probably won't say it on the pod, but he's probably not coming.
What?
Look, it's
Timmy missing a Flesh and Blood event? What? Doesn't happen?
well, if it was a calling, look, it's a bit complicated team. I've been running around around the globe the last couple of months, so I'm not going to say never's never, but highly unlikely. Highly unlikely.
I think at the end of this year, we would have flown enough to own our own airline, honestly.
Plus, I'll tell you,
you going to go to Singapore?
Yes, I'm going Singapore, then straight to Lille.
Yeah.
Vegas at the end of the year for the Worlds.
Is it Vegas?
Yes.
It is. Did
James
you just
White said it'll be US, I think, at the PT. Yeah.
We said US, but he didn't say Vegas.
Jeez,
Do you know
we're
something
assuming.
we don't know?
We're assuming.
All right, you're assuming.
I'm assuming.
I mean, I hope it's Vegas.
Yeah,
I hope it's Vegas.
I think I'll be there in November.
I think that's what they want the international events to be anyway. It's like it's easier for the US people to get to as well, isn't it, than like Jersey.
Are you judging in Singapore or Lille or anywhere
So
like
on that, so personally, I've made a promise to myself until there's obviously LSS roll out the level 2 program and there's more level 2s. I'm just going to take this opportunity to obviously support my community here in Australia and judge locally. But obviously, I'd like to still play, and obviously at a professional level, the best opportunity for that is international.
Mm-hmm.
So I've promised myself I'll always play international level
And
events
judge in Australia.
and judge the Australian ones just until that program gets rolling and I don't have to judge every event.
That seems good.
Fair enough.
So, Team Blitz,
Oof.
Saturday.
Well, at this table, I'm
Yes.
the best at that, it seems.
Yeah.
Quite easily.
Okay.
He got paid to play.
I got carried so hard.
He
man.
got paid to play.
Yeah, that was fun. Well, what was your experience judging that? Was that a new and weird experience?
It was definitely weird. Obviously, there was a few issues on the day, which we can get to later. But obviously, the experience of it, everyone had, I think, a lot more fun in a team event than they did individually. I think, personally, just from witnessing it. And obviously, like, this is from just my experience of nationals versus the team calling. I just thought everyone enjoyed themselves a lot more. And
It was fun, yeah.
yeah, and the experience was a lot more fun for everyone for the calling as a team event, which is good. And I think the fun thing is the fact that we can verse the best of the best in the world, the guys who make the game.
Not everyone would say that's fun, you know.
Oh,
Are we going to go there now? Might
I'm
as well.
just saying. I'm
Might
just
as well.
saying.
Let's go there.
So I like.
Okay, first explain to the audience exactly what we're talking about now. Let's break it down.
Well, day 2 was the first team blitz calling
in the world.
In the world.
First professional team event.
Yeah, so PTI's gold foils cash on the line. Top 16 teams got cash.
Non-rated, though.
Well, I think the gem system's not able to. So like each team was one person in gem, so I think that makes it hard to rate. Like they'd have to go back and manually do it for hundreds of players. I think that's why.
And it gets
I'm sure in
too
the future
complicated.
we'll see if they update the gem software where it's got the team registered properly. It was 7 rounds day 1, 5 rounds day 2, then a top 4 cup, I believe. Wicked fun. I got to verse developers. I got to verse Sydney friends. I got to verse Malaysians. It was amazing. It was a very international event for sure. And definitely a lot of different people from all around Australia that we sort of know but don't see often. I wasn't aware we nearly had the same number as Europe. That's really good. Big event for Australia.
So getting back to
Yeah.
LSS stuff, break it down. What?
Oh, sure. Well, I don't know what the rules were. I just knew early on there was a rumor that they could play.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we knew that James White might be coming to play with us, so we knew.
So it was one staff member was allowed to
per
participate
team, I believe.
Per team, yeah.
Per team.
I think the way it worked out is you had a bunch of friends from New Zealand, like Newsom's team. Jason, is it Newsom, Jason, and
Jacob Pearson.
No.
Jacob
Oh, you're
Pearson.
talking about the actual devs?
Yes.
They're not all one team. I was trying to remember
Oh,
the
teams. Yes, so it was Newson, Jason, Kale.
That's one team.
Yeah.
I think they were just buddies like that wanted to
They're
play.
friends, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they're all friends.
Yeah, Newsom told me he couldn't test a lot, so he just brought Ira because he's done 1,000 reps on that, and that's what which worked for him. He knew what he was doing, and I don't think anyone else in the room played Ira, to be honest. And he top tabled. Then you had Jacob Pearson with I can't remember his teammate's name now.
CJ.
Yep.
CJ Quidazole and Justin, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They were Team Bolton. And then, well, this is the rumor. I don't know how much of this is true. There was Team Jason Chung. Full stop. It seems like he
Very
met a couple of
accomplished
guys.
Magic player, by the way.
Very accomplished
good
Magic player. Also a very
accomplished
senior
Fab player
Yeah,
as
but
well, yeah.
senior Fab developer, a tester. You tell when you meet him, he's superhuman. But I believe, and this is the rumor, he had people on his team that between them had played less than 2 weeks of Fab total. That he met. I don't think he knew any of them, but I think he met them just before the event, gave him some homework. I believe the Oldham player, the night before or something, spent a few hours, like 4 hours, watching Oldham videos on YouTube. And then the rumor goes, or the legend, as we're going to call it, is he played Kano in the middle, got rid of his opponent in usually under 10 minutes, and then would...
3 turns.
Yeah, and just look to the sides and help the other two pilot their decks.
I think that's cool.
I think
love
it's
that
insane.
I love that story.
A testament to his brain power.
It seems like he's
Genius
an
he
all
is.
right player.
But
yeah.
even the experience is for the other two. I think that's wicked. Imagine
Being carried into a gold foil.
Yeah, like imagine being you in the game. You can't find a third team member. You put some post on Facebook, and then like one of the best players in the world jumps in and goes, "Oh yeah, I hope you boys out."
Look, I'm salty about it because I'm jealous. I wish I got carried to a gold foil. Like I can actually pilot my deck without help, so he could have focused. But hey, I think
cool.
the biggest thing I'm annoyed about is that no one recorded it all, because I would have loved to go back after playing and actually watch what he did. Because you heard, like, you'd hear people going, he just killed someone with AB5, like an Oldham with AB5. I'm like, can Kano do that?
It was like turn 2.
Yeah.
Jason did it against Jacob.
Yeah,
the
which
other
is
dev.
like the
Straight out.
person that won the event. He actually killed him with AB5.
I think it was one of my most fun experiences as a judge, was just watching the devs and just the skill
Do
level.
they know more than you know?
100%. 100%, without a doubt.
Now, by the way, so I did play against Jacob. That's the one dev. So I played with Newsom later. We got to hang out and draft downstairs at mine. But I actually played the event against Jacob. That team was extremely friendly and professional.
Team Bolton.
Didn't rush us, even though we were clearly inexperienced compared to them. Your friend Brent was asking a lot of questions about Prism. He actually beat him. He got him to scoop. This is the funniest story. He went 11-1 on the day, by the way. Do you know of any other player that went 11-1? Yeah.
No.
Best Rhinar player, Oceanic, I think, is what we're
Better watch out.
slowly finding out.
Don't sleep on my mate.
Yeah, but no, he like in that environment, he didn't have to. He was quite. I thanked him later. I'm like, thanks for being patient. He's like, nah, dude, that guy's sick. Like, but Brent's like, roll scabbies, and he like yells it out and throws the dice. But that was very one-sided beating. They demolished us. But all in all, well, I came 9th total. We went in day 2 7th.
You guys smashed it, yeah.
We did. Like we were like, hey, if we like the first conversation we had for the day is, guys, if we X3, do we want to drop and draft? That was our first conversation. And then Yeah. I
But-
think there's other Sydney teams like I think Ryan Bell's team, they got 15th or something.
Andy, Chromatic Games team, they came up there. Didn't
Correct.
they end up in the top 16?
I think,
Or
He was, I think, 12th or something.
12th?
like that.
Yeah.
so a couple. And then Hayden Dale's team,
Came 3rd, 4th overall.
yes.
Yeah.
And everyone else was New Zealand in the top. No, that's not true. Jesse Chung's team was 2 Aussies, I believe, with him. Amazing event, though.
talk to us about your. You said to me, during the weekend that your team's approach was.
Yeah, we had a different...
The reason why I asked you about this, because it will sort of segue into something I want to talk about, but you guys sort of didn't have a rule, but there was an understanding during your matches. You didn't talk to each other. You played your own games, essentially.
More specifically, because there were a few discussions, broad ones going around for everyone. One was the seeding, trying to big brain where to sit. And second was, what decks are we going to play? I was like, I'll play whatever. Clearly, Brent is on Reinhardt, only plays Reinhardt, that's fine. My other teammate, Sean, was on either Dash or Briar. And I was like, look, if I need to play Oldham to win, let's play Oldham. But then we all decided, let's just play what we're enjoying playing in Armories. It's Blitz. And that means we don't need to pilot, don't need to help. No one needs to ask questions. And what we found is every time we'd verse a team that was asking each other, especially I was in the middle on Dory, and a lot of middle players would ask, man, I haven't versed Dory. Should I block? Should I not block? They all lost. Because they got not told necessarily wrong information, but it was they weren't playing with the pressure on them. And I feel like...
And they weren't aware of the board state either. Like
well,
what you've
of
pitched,
course.
what
So
you've
like
used.
they'd turn over and ask a question and they'd be told full block. But then, if I have a twinning blade, that's not the right choice. But you'd know that if you're paying attention to the game, whether I've pitched... We found... And definitely the pro teams, when you watch them play, they'd communicate, but it was more pre-match going, what should I look out for? Like Sean asked me about Kasai, and I'm like, look out for Blade Runners. Don't worry about the first sword swing. It doesn't pump like Dory, so don't overblock ever. That kind of thing.
And a lot of the professional teams mainly spoke about what they're doing with their hand in
Yes.
their turn.
Yeah.
And they speak to each other, what they've pitched, what's coming back.
And definitely when you got to like one player's left playing, their teammates would give them some advice on maybe there's a line with some more damage or something. But what I'm trying to say is we just played for fun. We played the fun decks, and then we didn't try and interrupt each other. We had a lot of banter, and we just played it like an armory. But to be honest, between the three of us, we all are capable of winning an armory, which is a 3-0 blitz event. So if we all ended up doing 60% win rate, except Brent, who did
99% win
11.
rate.
But that's all you need to do is if you go to an armory and you're on the deck, you can get unlucky, but most of it is just being comfortable. But it was fun. It was fun. That's the thing. I would go in like that event. I hope is the main event of every calling. It'd be so sick.
Obviously, because I didn't play, but you guys were locked in your seats. Did you find yourself versing a similar hero in that seat most of the time? Like, was it like a Briar in the middle? Was there Kano in the middle more often than not?
No, it's the opposite. So I only faced one Oldham in the middle. But how many teams were there? 80?
Almost, yeah. I think just about 80 teams.
Yeah, but then, like, because I'd ask people, I'm like, I really dodged all the Oldhams in the middle. But people were like, man, all I face is Oldhams in the middle. I'm like, all right. But I more found that the more inexperienced player was in the middle. It seemed like a lot of teammates brought like someone that was a slightly less experienced till we got to the higher end tables, and it was definitely the boss. Captain was like, could pilot all the decks, could answer questions. Made a big difference for those teams, I think. How about you, Paul?
Yeah, we discussed a lot about the decks, the high level stuff, where we're going to sit, what did we expect, the decks, the matchups, we practiced, we did all of that. But one thing that we missed that, winding back time, I'll definitely take into future things is we didn't talk about like how we would interact with each other, or what happens if someone makes a misplay, like a stupid mistake, and they verbalize it or they something. How would you best react to what your teammate would say? Would you prefer, your teammates to just say nothing or encourage you or call you an idiot? Like, how would you approach that? And because we didn't even discuss that, we didn't even discuss like in-game interactions. There were a few situations, I'm not going to go into it because it's not really relevant, but there were a few situations in the first couple of games where some things happened And I feel that because we hadn't had those conversations earlier, it really stifled our first couple of rounds, if that makes sense.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's what I could see. So we didn't do very well. I made a couple of just very, very, like, even for me, like, very...
How many times did you roll the one on Scabbies on the weekend? That's what I want to know.
4 times, and I rolled a double one twice.
We also got to put it out there that Timmy's team was brood only.
Yeah, we brought brood only. Yeah, we had KO,
a lot of dice rolling,
and Reiner. But to be honest, like, yeah, I made some poor plays in the first couple of rounds, and then obviously between all of us, we made a little bit of mistakes. But I just think those first few rounds, if we had better discussions about how to interact with each other, because we didn't know that, because you might be someone that, you know, likes your teams to give you advice or say things or encourage you, and then you might be like, no, just don't say anything to me.
Who sat in the middle for yours?
It was Ollie. Ollie sat in the middle because he has the most experience out of all the brutes. So he was on KO. So his matches were usually like he'd either win in the first few turns or to get dragged out and he'd possibly lose. That's typically how his matches went. If the matches
but
went
that can
long
just
enough.
beat anyone as well.
Yeah. He steamrolled a fair few players. But one question again, I'm not going to name any round specifically, but there was an issue, like I got in a very, very complicated issue in one of my rounds. I don't want to even say what round it was, but I was playing against someone. I was playing against a friend, okay, someone who I think is a friend. And that player is notoriously a slow player, notoriously. So am I, though, in some respects. I'm faster than this person, most definitely. And this person was playing quite slow throughout the game. And throughout the match, I was constantly conflicted. Do I call a judge on my friend? Like, we're in a calling. He is playing slow. The time is going down. It's kind of stressing me out. I made a bad mistake the previous round, and there were some team interactions that were already playing on my mind, so that I had a heightened sort of, level of, pressure. And then that was happening, and I was so conflicted. Do I be nice to my friend? Anyway, how would you approach that? Like, when is the right time, Noah, to call a judge for slow play? Not talking about my specific situation, but just in general.
We'll answer this question as a player and as a judge.
Okay, sure.
So as a player...
It's very different.
Yeah. So as a player, usually if I'm versing someone and I'm starting to get distracted, like get bored, my eyes start wandering, and my mental state, which is meant to be in the game, starts deviating because I'm waiting so long for my opponent to do something, then I'm thinking, well, this is starting to take too long. Like this shouldn't be behavior that I should be exhibiting because of what's happening in the game. So obviously at that point I'd probably be like, judge, what's next? Like, obviously it's a friend. I'd probably just verbally talk to them first.
Yep.
I'd try to minimally avoid judge calls. Obviously everyone's different, but personally that's what I would do. As a judge, we had a lot of conversations about these with my judge team before we kicked off the event. It's like, being blitz such a short time, what do we define as slow play? Everyone had their own opinion, but usually you put a time on it. So sometimes it's 2 minutes, 3 minutes if it's classic constructed. If it's like a kill turn, you give them a good 5 minutes. Obviously there are some rules in place to involving like being so close to time and like having no actions. Are you turn 0 or is your next person turn 0 if they don't block on time? That kind of stuff. But usually, like, judges will obviously come to put a time on it to make a game action, like to do something.
So that obviously, so a question for you: how many draws were there round one? Because I heard a number.
I'd probably say maybe 25%.
Yeah.
And
remember, I called that before the last week's pod.
I think that's why we did all right, because most of the time being wasted were idiots sitting there with their cards, waiting for their friend to finish their turn to tell them about... You can't do that. Every time someone would do that to me, I'm like, I would just prod nicely when they'd be like looking over at their friend, waiting for their friend to decide. So we're waiting for double the normal amount for a slow player. I'd be like 5 with go again. and put pressure on them by declaring the game state again. Because I'm like, you got to decide about this 5 with go again. And they'd be like, oh, Phil, do I do it? I'm like, and I think
that's a good strategy.
It was also
I like
lack
that.
of practice where clearly no one sat and practiced team blitz.
It was obviously like,
But I think you'll find if we have another one in 6 months, how much different it'll be. Because a lot of the more casual people maybe hated it for that reason. Maybe they got in an argument with their like significant other that they played with or something. Because there was tension. There's definitely tension. And then I think you'll find if you teamed up with people where you felt like the interactions weren't healthy for the team, is the same team could go again and go, look, guys, the rule is like you're on your own. We talk before the game, we talk after. Good luck, fist bump, and we just focus down the line till you're done with your game. Then please help me. And that's how we sort of approached it. Is the Reinar matchup is usually the quickest, and Brent couldn't really help us because he doesn't play the other decks. But it was great motivation to hear him. And we'd look over and the Oldham's dead, and we're like, "Did you already kill him?" He's like, "Yeah, quad int him, turn 2, yeah." And then, you know what I mean? No, but that helps. Like focusing on the hearing the good news immediately. We'd tell like immediately when I'd get like a third counter, I'd be like, "Sean, counter 3. I think this game's done." Even psychologically for the other team to hear me say that, because a lot of it was like questions. I'm like, "Dude, I just routed him." And then Sean would smile, and then I know I'm helping him. Also, when 2 of us would win, we'd tell the other player immediately, like, pressure's off. And that helped us, I think, with the day.
I like that.
Yeah. So that's a lot of how our team ended up going. Brent's hilarious. Also, it's like, we weren't there to win. Like, we played well, but we weren't, like, thinking we're going to win every match. We were like, let's see if our little strategy... I don't think there were many teams like us where... there was no Oldham on the team, first of all.
It was unique. It was Dory,
which was our other strategy to never go to time, is we know the deck's strong. We tested with it. We're like, you know what happens, though? You play Oldham, the other player plays slow, and you still end up going to time. And I saw many players way, way better than me. I don't beat them in armories, dropping out because they didn't make it on better decks in better teams, I think, because they had Oldhams on the team. And other teams, like we just described, you're playing Oldham, they're on 2 life, they're waiting for their friend to give them a lifeline, which isn't going to come. Like, you know what I mean? It's a crutch.
Controversial opinion on that.
What's that?
Oldham, well-versed Oldham player isn't the one going to time. It's their opponent.
That's what I'm saying.
Going to time.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
No, but that's what I'm saying. I didn't want to play Oldham because even if I play it super fast, my deck itself can cause someone to play slow because they get scared because they're just being fatigued or losing. Like suddenly the dash isn't boosting. Suddenly, chain's not shackling, and suddenly the game takes way longer than it needs to because the player, like, it's not the Oldham player always, but there's definitely a mixture with Oldham players, and slow play is just a recipe for disaster.
Yeah.
There was a Icelander Oldham mirror, like, no. We wanted to avoid that. We didn't play any decks that had to block a lot. We just wanted to
have fun.
Yeah. But also, you know what is fun is finishing all 3 games in 10 minutes. Because we got deck checked, 17 minutes added to time, or 15, and we still finished before time.
The deck checks were a pain.
Which was actually worse because immediately as we finished, the next round got paired. We're like, fuck, get back.
So how does it work? Do you predetermine before the event starts at what round you'll do deck checks and you randomise the tables? How does that usually work?
So the way we did it, because every TO and head judge can run it differently, the way we did it was no deck checks round 1. Round 2 is just randomised. One of the guys put a random number generator and pulled out a table number.
Yep.
And we go, bang, that's them. But closer to the end of day 1, you're more likely deck checking people who are at their win innings. So people who have an incentive to do something dodgy. Not saying no one did. There was a few mishaps with deck list errors.
I got deck checked twice. I was like, why are they just grabbing my deck?
Yeah, the second time was random.
Shonky.
Yeah.
But yes, people who would have an incentive to. Thankfully, we never found it. There was just a couple honest mistakes.
Talk to me about those because I know what they are without mentioning names. I'm very curious. There was someone with 41 cards. There was someone with no equipment on their list. Is that even in the rules, like no equipment on the list? Because I can't imagine that's explicitly written.
Yeah, it technically is. It's not explicitly written no equipment. It's written decklist
Missing
error.
equipment.
Decklist
Sure.
error. And it was funny enough. It was one of the LSS devs.
It was.
Not going to name who.
Oh, he knows. You know.
And his excuse, I've never had the right one in his life.
That's true.
And that
too.
didn't save him from the IP penalty, that's
No.
for sure. And then the other one was an old deck box. Used to have the classic instructor version of the deck.
Sure.
In his spare sleeves, there was still a sleeved extra card.
Right.
So
So not in the. It's in the box, not in the deck, like that. He was
it's in the
playing.
box.
Yeah.
But obviously because it's within the box.
Well, that's how you
Yeah.
look at it, right? You don't.
Yeah.
So if you weren't aware, because I wasn't aware till this event, but luckily I was doing the right thing anyway, because I'm OCD. I didn't want extra cards near me. You should not have a single other card anywhere near you. You have a deck box with your equipment and cards that you play with and your dice, and everything else is out of sight.
Correct.
The only real
Because
exception is like if you get a promo on the day, you can put that in there. That's fine.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
But it's actually I wouldn't have even thought that if I had my Blitz deck with me, but the CC half of it in the same deck box, how much trouble I'd be in.
Oh, yeah.
Because when I go to an armory, I do that.
Yeah,
When I'm
yeah,
switching
100%.
between. But it's too easy because they're sleeved the same way. I can see why. And fair. No one got DQ'd.
We did.
Like through the event, 3 days. Any DQs?
There was one.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
No, well, I know you're not going to you can't specifically. I have one to ask you about though, because again, I'm curious. In Vegas, so the story that I've heard that I'm fairly sure is accurate, guy came, bought an eye from a vendor that was clearly warping a little bit, put it in his deck and played. I think was doing quite well, like top 4 or top 5, whatever. They were quite high. And then opponent calls the judge, said that's a marked card. And it was very obvious by all accounts.
The curvature. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's an eye of Ophidia, so the judge DQ'd him. Story goes, guys quit the game forever. All his friends are pissed off. Now, people ask me, so I'll answer it first as a player. My logic was, if I turn up to any sporting event, a professional event where I could win money, forgot my ping pong balls at home, and I buy some from a vendor, and then I'm playing and my opponent says these balls are weighted, and a judge figures the ball's weighted, I'm getting kicked out. No one's going to stop and ask. I didn't feel like there's any justification or anyone needed to... whether you're cheating on purpose or not is actually secondary. The judge's point is not to figure out if you're cheating on purpose or not. It's to figure out, are you cheating? Or is there a possibility you're cheating? And a marked eye of Ophidia, which, yes, foil warping is marked. Now, again, I did my own research, so this is why I'm saying my bit and then tell me how right or wrong I am. My understanding is he should have been able to pick out that one foil card in the deck is going to stick out like a sore thumb. Should have gone to a judge and said, can you deck check me and can you put a proxy in my deck for the eye? And the judge would have probably scribbled on a bobble, eye of Ophidia, put the eye in the guy's deck box and given it back, and no issue, he's got a deck. Because people are going, but it's a legal card, blah, blah. It's like, yeah, but LSS should print the cards better. I'm like, whoa. No, I'm saying... Again, you own the eye, it's in your deck, but you still can't have a marked card. They're separate things. Anyway, Judge Noah, how would you have treated that? Yeah,
before Judge Noah starts, I need to say something. At the end of it's nothing to do with LSS. I'm seeing these these stupid posts, people talking about card quality. It's nothing. You're responsible for your deck. You're responsible for every card in your deck. If a card is curling, it is marked. If you're aware of that, and you're not doing something about it, well, geez, are you a Timmy? Seriously, before skirmish season, I was testing Bear Fangs. Just before the first skirmish, I noticed the fall Bear Fangs, because we have high humidity here, was really curling. And in my deck, it was starting to become obvious, and one of Bear Fangs, which is kind of an important card, was kind of curling. So before that skirmish, I took it out and put an on-fold in. I'm a Timmy. I wanted to play with a foil, but I didn't. Now, that's for a skirmish, sorry, excuse me. So definitely he should be responsible for that. 100%. It's unfortunate that he quit the game. I hate hearing those
that's
stories.
what I've heard. I'm sure there was frustration in the moment. But also
look, before the event, before the Blitz event, right? On the weekend, the Blitz calling, I had some sleeves. Legitimately, these sleeves are 3 weeks old. I'm not going to name the company, 3 weeks old. The corners were starting to get a little bit thingy, but there was no rhyme, no reason. One of my team members had a fresh packet of sleeves, but it was only 10 minutes before the event started. And he's like, do you want to change sleeves? I'm like, I can't really be bothered. It was in the back of my mind. I gone, heck, I know the judges. Let me just go up and ask him. So I went up to, big shout out to the big man from Auckland. What was his name? Josh? Jono.
Good
how
guy.
are you, mate? Great guy.
He was the head judge for a couple of the events,
Yeah.
like when there were 2 events at once.
Yeah, so he led the battle hardened.
He did a good job, I
Heaps
think.
of experience from
Heaps
New Zealand.
Yeah, so I went up to Jono and Mitch, and I said, right, here's my deck. What do you think? Professional opinion. They both looked at it and said, look, be on the safe side, change the sleeves.
Yep.
So that's what I did.
That's
no
it.
harm, no harm,
You'd be
no
surprised how many people come up to me. I could probably say more than can count on my hands. People come up like,
Really?
can you check the cards? And 9 times out of 10, I said, change the sleeves.
Yep.
Because obviously, like, you might just be your home deck, but there'll be wear and tear over time. And the last
but
thing
like
you
you
want
said, it's
is
your
like,
opponent's right to call the judge, and it's also if it's a win-in, then you run out of excuses. Oh wait, there's $7,500 on the line. You're responsible. Anyway, what's your full opinion on the story?
Obviously, I 100% agree with Timmy and you guys. It's like your responsibility with your deck to make sure everything is as perfect as it could be. A one-off foil is usually the worst situation for marked cards because of the curling that happens. It's pretty much if you can distinguish the cards when it's in the deck, which curling does, it leaves a jump, like a bump. And if you can distinguish it on top, and then if you spread the 15, 20 cards out and you can pick the card, then that counts as marked cards. Then the key thing to that is if the judge who's doing the deck check can distinguish a pattern with those cards. And that will obviously distinguish the severity.
And when it's 1 of 1?
When it's a 1 of 1, key card like I, it's a pattern because you can like set your picture under it and you know when it's coming back. You know that, oh, I'm not going to counter this turn because it's an eye on top. That kind of stuff is definitely not great.
And your job is not specifically straight away to figure out intent, is it?
No.
Because that is just, they could have cheated, and that's enough because it's not fair for the opponent.
Intent is a hard one for judging.
Of course.
It definitely is like a
You're not a jury trial with evidence, you know what I mean? You just have to go off, can I see a pattern?
Of the facts,
can I pick the card out of 60 or 40? Can I actually see it? And if you can, you don't have a choice, right? Casual event, you'd probably just say change the sleeve, shuffle your deck or something, right? But I don't know if think about if it happened mid-round, it's over.
Okay, well, let's offer a solution. We've got Timmy at home. He wants to play Dory. Lucky little Timmy's cracked an eye. He's kept the eye in the shoebox, and it's curled to the you-know-what. How does little Timmy go about playing this eye? Because it's an expensive card. It only comes in foil.
Correct. Well, that's the people's argument is it's a fabled, only comes in foil.
But how does little Timmy go about decurling?
I have 2 solutions.
Tell me.
You get a silica pack. Mm-hmm. You get a sandwich bag. Put it in. Airtight, like squeeze the air out of it. It does not take long. It curls all the way back around to the other side if you leave it too long. So you can pretty much watch it. Come back, check in half an hour, and you'll see a difference. Airtight, sucks all the moisture out. Because I believe curling in is moisture and curling out is dryness, and you've got to find a middle ground. Some people will put it in weight, but the way we had that rain for a long period here, you couldn't do anything about it. When Everfest launched, everything was a U. We couldn't help it. Mm-hmm. Even non-foils would curl a little bit because of the amount of moisture in the air. But the second solution is what I read in the rules. A judge can issue a proxy. Go up to a judge and go, here's my eye. Here's my one I printed on my laser printer, or here's a bauble with Eye of Ophidia written on it. Can I? And the judge
certified proxies are allowed,
There you go.
That's the solution. And you can have your cold foil slabbed eye sitting on the side because it's in your deck. Like, you can actually do that. The judge has to approve it, but a judge would rather give you a bauble with his signature on it. And because, again, it's just, it's only rainbow foil. It's bowed. It's not your fault. He's not going to force you to go buy a $400 card. He'll just proxy it for you.
So said person obviously probably didn't know that.
But it's a professional event. So you not knowing is, again, unfortunately, you can't tell a cop, I didn't know.
Yeah, I know.
Like, when you break the rules, you break the rules. The judge Now, I don't know. See, if the judge was rude to the player, blah, blah, you don't know all that, right? All you know is the judge's job is not to educate him on the spot.
You can't.
Or give him another chance. He's going, there's a rule broken. That's the consequence. Because what you don't want to see, what people miss is the flip side of this. Imagine that guy wins, and then everyone's talking about how there was a curled eye in the deck.
Yeah.
And like that puts a way bigger stain on the game.
It was the right ruling. It feels bad.
Yeah.
That's all you can say.
But
you know,
sometimes these things happen so people can learn. Hopefully anyone that hears that story actually knows not to play like that.
there's a workaround. Go to a judge.
And we're on the same page here. If half the deck was foil and curled a bit and it was hard to see a pattern, might have been a much different story.
Yeah,
It seemed like he had one card, which is very, very, very like bad in a professional setting.
Yeah, I had a calling like that. A deck checked a dash player. Half his cards were foil, half weren't. I think just based on the packs he's pulled. I just made a recommendation to him. I was like, hey man, like
Pick one.
they're all single sleeved. So I was like, if you want to run them, just try and flat them out, double sleeve them for next event. Just
Yep.
gave him some advice.
Yeah, because you
he
couldn't
was
see a
fine.
pattern, so you can't. Yeah, you just
Yeah.
leave it. Yeah.
And it's kind of, it's just the hardness though. It's
Yeah.
just a kind of judge calls. Never great to make
No.
DQing someone. Especially on day 2.
See, the funny thing is, like, I am the type of person that would judge and not play, especially because you get boxes and like the compensation's quite good. I just honestly, I did the test, and it's that kind of test where they try and trick you, and I don't like doing those tests.
There was, when I did my test, there was a question like tail limb from limb and KO. Like what's the attack? Like you have to do the
that was a
maths.
tricky one because
Yeah.
they actually changed the ruling on that, didn't
After
they?
the fact,
Yeah.
that I did.
well,
it, yeah.
okay, explain it to me. What is the rule?
Can I explain in case I want to be
go
a
for
judge?
goals.
Right, this is
Yeah.
my audition.
Oh, here we go.
It used to be. So let's tell me the text to tail limb from limb. If it's got a plus damage built in it, right? +2 if you discard a
No.
6 or whatever.
No.
What does it say?
Tail limb from limb is the base of the discarded.
Yeah, draw a card, discard a card at random, and then you add, if it's I think it has to be a 6 or higher,
Discarded.
and then you add that base power to your next brute action, attack action.
Yeah.
I think.
So again, it has a built-in plus damage in the card. KO's ability used to multiply that. As in, if a card was a 6 and became an 8, you'd multiply the 8 because one would happen before the other. But that's not the case now. You multiply the base damage and then add. That's the formula, correct?
Yes, because
Yeah.
it used to.
Because it used to be 30 something or whatever.
So they used to get pluses off barrage.
It was
You could
crazy,
come
yeah.
in for 24.
Yeah.
Off barrage and beatdowns, they'd include that.
It doubled
with
the
like tail limb
total.
from limb and a discard thing
Okay.
because it all modified the base.
Yeah.
And obviously they had to change that where, like you just said.
So whatever additional, like K's ability only changes the base, what's written on the card. If it's a 6, it becomes a 12, then you add the 2 or the 4 or whatever comes after it. So that becomes an 18, not a lethal, like from turn 1.
Yeah.
But that KO was a little bit, that was before, mind you, that was before a lot of the new KO cards. If KO had that rule now,
With their specialization and everything, roll 2 dice.
yeah.
Any idea how many KO decks were there in the calling?
There were a few full Rhino teams.
Full,
Maybe enough to
brute
count on
teams.
one hand. Full brute
I heard
teams,
there was
sorry.
one other. I didn't know there was any more than that.
I think
We
maybe.
got a breakdown at some point.
Yeah, I think it was like less than 5. Definitely less than 5 KO.
Did you hear about the 2-player team?
Oh, please tell the story.
brute
How good
only
was
team?
this?
So from what I actually, the icing on the cake there, again.
We'll start from the start.
The legend of it is that they turned up with a friend who ditched them and played on another team. And they didn't have enough time. Is that true? Is that what you heard as well?
Not on the day. They
Sure.
did make a team, and then a few months ago made a team, and then obviously someone else asked that team.
But they were playing at
mate
the
to go.
event.
Yeah, they were playing.
So
yeah.
these guys decided,
So a team of 2 was registered to the calling.
Levier in the middle, Reinar on the side. The third slot was an auto loss because they had 2 players. They made it to day 2.
Can you believe it? A 2-person
Which means
Rhino team.
It means they both had to win every
Correct.
like, every time. No, they had to win.
They
They
both
could
had to
only
win
lose
both their
3
games.
times or whatever to get
Yeah.
in. Yeah.
But granted, I got to put it out there. I'm not sure if that was actually allowed, the 2-person team.
Yeah.
Oh.
Because it's
Come on, Noah. That's spicy. How are they
It
breaking
is.
the
It is a great story. It is spicy.
So did we get you in trouble? We can,
Maybe, I don't know.
Look,
They didn't run deep in day 2 though, but still
No.
to make it to day 2.
but they
They
also
did play, like, granted to both of them, they did play very well.
Yeah.
And they were great players.
they're good players.
Yeah.
They must be, to win out like that.
Yeah. But like there were people searching the day before, like for a team, even in the morning,
Because we had two-person teams at the start.
which you can't.
And we only had one player who came internationally who didn't have a team. He was just
Jason Chung was no.
no, it wasn't Jason Chung. So obviously he joined one of the two-person teams.
Yep.
And there was a conversation between me and the guys who hosted the calling. I was like, do we let him happen? Do we let him have a go for the fun? Like,
I mean,
so they can enjoy
it's
themselves.
good that you did. Yeah.
Yeah.
It would have sucked if you told them that, because they have obviously zero advantage having 2 people, not 3.
And they
right?
travelled a long way to get here as well.
Yeah.
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 Where were they from?
I think Queensland, up
Okay.
Brisbane, or like Lismore, up very north of
Yep.
New South Wales.
Awesome. Well
Not
done,
100% on that, but I know they travelled in to get here.
I'd like to get into the event as a whole.
Yeah. What worked well?
I think majority of things worked well. I think the judge team was amazing. The organisers were amazing. And like obviously the thrill of opening Everfest, the cards and the set was
Uprising.
amazing.
That's what he meant. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know.
It was like a great event.
He still doesn't know
Overall.
the mistake you made. You called Uprising Everfest.
Did I?
You did.
In the announcement?
No, just then.
Just there.
Oh, did I? Oh. Whoops. I
It's all right. It's all right. We
Yeah.
forgive you. It's where you can only hear it through the headphones.
Yeah.
That's the
Yeah.
problem. Yeah. It's not your fault.
Thanks. Appreciate it. But it was just a great
What
event
would you
overall.
change if you had to run it back?
Maybe a venue one size
Yes.
up.
Yep.
Because
Would have sped
granted-
things up too.
Yeah, it would have sped things up. During the world premiere, it was a little bit squished.
Yes.
We were a bit tight. On
Little is an understatement.
I like the size of the venue. I like
No.
the venue was good.
I
The
like
venue
things
was-
cozy and
Did
comfy.
you not have to sit
Amazing.
on those tables where
Yes, I
some of
did.
the tables they were just right, and then others were like the play mats overlap. You can't actually. Yeah.
Which was because we obviously we realized that day 1, day 2 for the calling, we spread the tables out
You're fine.
and
Yeah.
added an extra table in all the rows. So that was a bit of a probably something I just changed slightly. The venue was great. Like the
Yeah.
Masonic Center was amazing. Like I'd go back there 100%.
Like I read the reviews, and most of the negative ones were like you could hear the train. Never heard a train.
I never heard the train
Right?
either.
You can
Because
hear
did
it,
you read
really?
that in the review? I don't know. I always read
I'm
reviews.
deaf anyway, but I couldn't hear it.
No, you couldn't. They're like, oh, the building shakes. I'm like, nah.
The building shakes.
No, I suppose there's a train line under it,
Yeah.
but I never ever once. It was
I never
great
heard
actually,
one.
and if anything, it was very quiet inside. Like
The
you forgot what
shaking
time
was
of day it was.
The shaking was Brent's bloody romping club getting busy on the top tables. That's what the shaking was.
100%.
You know what? Like if we performed as well as Brent, we win the event. That's fact. Like he played well enough to win the event. Like not even like dropping one game.
It's huge. Huge props to him.
Yeah.
So-
What was like? What are some negatives though? Be critical here.
Because obviously we got Let's Play Games who hosted the event, got permission directly from LSS to be the only calling in the world to run an Uprising draft as our side event on day
Right.
2. Obviously going into the weekend, we all thought 40, 50 people. We were very wrong.
Yeah.
It was like 130 person draft. There was like 24 pods of 8. It was chaos. Granted, everyone had a lot of fun with it, but us judges and LPG
it's
were
too much.
running around like headless crooks trying to get everything organised. Also, granted, it was the same time running as the final couple rounds of the calling.
Yeah, we
which
didn't drop. So, we didn't drop. So I had no idea what was going on in the draft event. So
Because a lot of issues was because a lot of people were still live for day 2 of the calling, not day 2 like for the Sunday. So they'd register for the draft, get their 3 packs, entered into the event into a pod, and then not rock up.
That seemed to be from the organizers. Like you announced that if you're gonna play day 2, you can go get your packs. And then when I went to get my packs, I said I'm not playing it. I'm playing day 2. But I don't think they would. Like I think they were putting me into the event, not just giving me packs, because there were a lot of people. Like I think there was a full pod, no one drafted except the one person,
Yeah, there were
which meant they just
technical issues.
yeah. So has LPG run events before?
I think they may have done some Magic stuff back in the day.
They did nationals for
Okay.
Magic down in
Because they weren't,
Canberra.
but
and
by
the
any
nationals
means
for
that-
Magic were good. They were run well.
Yep.
They were run very well.
Or like I definitely say they have like a lot of experience in them, but obviously they were a bit short on manpower. Could be because of COVID, could be travel, not too sure on the reason.
Yep.
But a few more bodies is definitely something that could have helped the event overall. In judge team as well.
What are your thoughts, Paul?
My opinion overall, very good. I thought the check-in process to the events was good.
Yep.
I really liked the venue, inside, outside. I like the location. I like the city. Okay, I think it's for the most part, a lot of people saying Homebush and this and that, but I think the city's a good pick. To be fair, for these premier type events. So I did enjoy that. I thought the judges did fantastic. Jeez, I thought there was a lot more than 11 of yous, to be fair. Like, I had no idea. Judges were great.
But you had some different judges on each day. 'Cause
Yeah.
some people
Yeah.
judged an event, played an event.
Yeah.
But it was good. Like, the interactions I had, the interactions I saw were good. The players were fantastic. I met people from every state and territory and a couple of people, international people, like New Zealand, Southeast Asians.
Singapore as well.
Yes.
You guys came down.
So I thought it was overall very good. A couple of things, room for improvement, and I've already told Nora about these. First thing is, I think, to be fair, I think I've spoken about this off this channel, on my own channel. I do think I'm not aware of the contracts in place, so I just don't know enough about how the contracts are structured, or who's fronting up for the prizes, whether that's Let's Play Games or LSS. So I don't want to wade too much into it because I just don't have all that knowledge available. But I am a big fan of making these like an exhibition style. I am a firm believer that these big events, whether it's a Magic G-Prix or a Flesh and Blood Calling, should be not a loss leader. No way. People have to make money, but it
Shouldn't be a money grab.
It shouldn't be a money grab. The EV that you get at these events should be higher than any other event, in my opinion. It should be a promotional event that you tell all your friends about when you get back home and you say, hey, I played in this awesome event in the city of Sydney. It's a once-a-year thing or whatever it ends up being out in the wash, and it's amazing. Like, the drafts that you can play there are cheaper than you'll play at our LGS, plus the prizing's better. Like, they have side events going all day, all night. So that's my main thing, is I really wish on the Friday side events started at 9:30 in the morning, because I'm assuming they pay a day rate for the venue. That's my assumption. So why not get the maximum amount? I'm a big thing is, instead of charging more for events, run a high volume. Like, I take a day off work to play in these events, so I want to utilize my whole day. And to only do one sealed event, I thought was a bit of a letdown. I'd like to have done a
I could have been sealed event all day.
I would have loved to.
We would have played sealed all day.
Yeah,
Rather than drafts and everything next day, just today is sealed over there, draft over here, and run 3 or 4.
Yeah, I would have done 3 or 4 events if I could have started at 9 in the morning. So that's my only thing. And I think also I've spoken to you about this, the Battle Hardened, for me, for a constructed event, $50 with no prizing outside of the top 8. I think that's a little bit exy. I think that's a little bit over the top.
Yep.
I really think that, Jersey provided prizing outside of the top 8 with the prize wall for the Battle Hardened. I got a bunch of ticks for that event for, having a positive record. So I was a bit surprised that there was no prize support outside of the event when it's a constructed event and it had a $50 entry. That's my opinion. But other than that, I don't really have too much else. Like, other than that, it was a great event. Yeah, that's my overall opinion on it. I think it was really good. Just a couple of pointers there that I think could be improved for next time.
Yeah, I think there's...
You've got a couple other things, like
Look,
practical things, food.
I'm usually not negative, but best event outside of Pro Tour so far.
I couldn't,
If
couldn't
anything,
agree
it's
more.
a little bit better because it was our event.
Yeah.
Does it make sense? Like, you looked around, no one's really a stranger. Like, know the judges, familiar faces off Facebook Marketplace and stuff. That felt like our Pro Tour, which is the closest we're going to get for a while till we get like Nationals or something again. But it's definitely better than Nationals because
Nationals COVID.
huge amount of people, which was fun. My there's a lot of little things I would nitpick. A big one was on the weekends in Sydney. It was a public holiday weekend. There was nothing open, and I'm playing and I'm doing well, so I don't want to leave the event at any point. There's nowhere to buy food, nowhere to buy a bottle of water.
They did have filtered refill waters everywhere. Stations.
True, they did. I'm not big on those. I usually get a bottled water so I can carry it around. No, because I don't even want to leave. Yeah. I said, one of my matches got deck checked, finished on the 35-minute mark, immediately got paired at the same table. Like, but most of the time I had to wait to go to the toilet.
I brought bottles, so I appreciated being able to refill them.
No, I mean, that's a good thing. But, even snacks, like there was no food. Like it doesn't make sense if you're going to do vendors and there's no food. It's something the TO should look around and... Because there's a cafe in the building that closed. We either ask them to open or have a food vendor. Get a coffee van to come park out the front.
Okay.
Something. Go on.
Hot tip for all the young players, I've spoken this about on my channel, is assume there's no food. Go to your Woolies, your Costco, your Walmart, wherever you are in the world, Tesco if you're in Europe. Get a buttload of snacks. I literally bought 2 shopping bags of fruits, jerkies, bananas, protein balls, everything. Obviously for Princess Spike and myself, loaded the backpack each day. We had a big breakfast, snacks in the backpack all day, and then a big dinner. But that's how we structured
where
our
I'm trying.
days.
Like I did the same next day. Like the second when I realized nothing's around. But it's such a lost opportunity because I'm thinking of it from a money perspective. Correct. If you're running an event and there's 300 people in there, why like
snacks? Yeah,
or coffees. I would have loved a
couple of vending machines would work because if I feel I need some sugar and there isn't anything in my bag and I'm under pressure, I'm playing. Might as well have something. Vendors were another thing. Love good games, love PCG grading, good branding for them. They had the big share of the floor space. They didn't have cards. I could just go up and go, I need 4 of these for my deck for tomorrow. They couldn't do that. They had a lot of flashy cards, but not they didn't bring bulk. The other 2 vendors, one of them was charging people an exorbitant amount for Monarch first packs. And then the other one, when I did ask them to give me cards, for which I needed, so I play in the sealed event. I wanted them for the calling. I said, hey, this is the list of cards I need. Come back a couple of hours later. Go, can I grab my cards? I go, we couldn't find them. I go, okay. Can I grab these? Yes, they're in that folder. I go, no, I need to play. Can I come back and grab them? When I did, they hadn't pulled them out. So it's a sale down the drain, but also didn't have a lot of cards. I think we talked about this also. Australia already has that problem. There's not many singles vendors that could build a deck from scratch, but there's a couple out there and really would like to see them get those spots because what you need to do at those events is, I've got a foil curling. I need to run to a vendor and get my card.
Get your replacement.
Ideally, it's a vendor that brought that with them, not just high-end legendaries or cold foils. You don't need that more than you need 12 of every common in the set, 12 of every rare in the set, which if you're a proper singles, you have that and it's sorted and it's ready to go. Because that's where the money is for them, is they can sell a 10-cent rare for $1 because it's at an event and you need it now. And it's a good income for them. A couple of things were also, the space for me, it was all right. Day 1 was packed, then it got a lot better. But if the venue was slightly bigger or they sold 10% less tickets, would have been perfect. But what doesn't make sense is, okay, to counter your point, the EV was actually way, way above what the tickets were. It's just whether you want to sell your promos or not. Because if the promos were selling, the hero promos were selling $50 on the day, the Phoenix was selling for $50, the playmat was $150, the sleeves were $50. I immediately flipped most of mine to pay for, because I paid 4 people's event tickets. I just sold all their stuff, and I was back in the green. But if you want to keep them, that pricing's insane. You need to pay $250 to play for the weekend. Plus, it's in the city, so no one can really cheaply transport in. If you drove or you flew in, you got to stay nearby, so it's expensive accommodation
and public holiday.
Yeah, and again, no real food. So I don't know. There's an argument to be made. But let's talk about prize support. Other events are prize tickets.
I just want to touch on the vendors before we go more into that. back to the vendors. Sort of like, to me, that didn't really... it said more about where we are at as Flesh and Blood as a whole, especially in Australia, than the vendors per se.
Yep.
You know, coming from another TCG background, seeing the vendors operate there and, you know, using John's example of being able to access, you know, commons and rares, staples very quickly, it just showed that, you know, the Flesh and Blood single game is very immature. It's very new. It's in its infancy, because remember, Flesh and Blood, you know, has just been about the sealed pump, you know, the tendies and all that. Like, the singles market is really in its infancy. It really is. There's a few people in America and other parts of the world starting to get deep on it and going into rainbow foils and unlimited, and now we've got single sets, so it's going to make it a lot easier. But it just showed me that, yes, this is a baby. You know, it's not a mature market where vendors have figured it out. They have experienced people that know the singles inside. They have a huge singles catalog. To me, it says more about the market. Like, I only know of one vendor in New South Wales that has that, not only that stock, but that knowledge and that systems to be able to provide that.
I had this. So the thing is, we're talking specifically about Blood Rush Gaming, who's a friend of ours, but it's sort of irrelevant. I open a lot of fucking product. He gets all my singles. So first of all, he's got a funnel that none of the other vendors have. Second, he was at Nationals. No one at Nationals made these comments about they couldn't go to a vendor and get a card, because he literally had every card with him. The problem is LPG. They have this weird thing about you have to be an LPG member, partner store, to even get the right pricing. It's a whole thing. And then they didn't give him the vendor slot, even though he screamed the loudest, which...
No, it's WPN that they needed.
No, that's what... Yeah, that they call it like Let's Play Games partner,
right? Which
you have to be WPN. But it's just a weird thing that they've got where what's like more important is they put the Card Hub people who were not a store, like they're obviously affiliated with a store, but that store here's what I'm trying to say. The store that had the vendor stand does not have all the singles. They just have some partnership, or maybe the owners are the same, that ran the Card Hub thing, right? But they're a fairly new Flesh and Blood auction thing. Ollie's been hoarding Flesh and Blood for a long time now. It actually has the singles. To not vet that before you run a huge event, an international event, seems like silly to me. Because you can't just pick any vendor you want. It's the same with Magic. You can't just pick any good game store to go run a vendor stall at your Magic Nationals, because wouldn't you check their singles website? And can I even buy like the meta decks on here? Can I buy the staples? Because to be honest, it doesn't matter. Like, I don't think those vendors would have made a lot of money being at the event, which is part of it too. They just simply don't even have the singles to sell.
But typically, like, honestly, like, to be like real talk, like, I know pretty experienced vendors in the Magic game. Most of them don't go to these big events to make money. They go to these events to buy.
Sure.
That's usually why vendors go to these events to buy. Well, Magic events, they go to buy. They go with suitcase of cash and they buy. They take it back to their LGS and their online stores, and they sell it and they rinse and repeat.
So, but again, that's another problem. The vendors that didn't want to buy Uprising, and then they also didn't want to buy Alpha foils. Oh, we bought too many yesterday. What do you mean? There's no such thing as too many. There's 16,000 boxes of Alpha ever printed. You're telling me you don't want more of it? Have you ever heard that?
It'll happen when the grain goes.
By the way, I get if you don't want to pay, like if your pricing is like 10% of market because you got a lot of it, but how do you say no? They said no.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well,
you would want more. Yeah.
I know, but like I said, but once we get the more player growth, there'll be more incentives.
At the end of the day, it's just something that's worth talking about, because it could have that part could have been done better for sure. I think there's always going to be, and we should address it. Like there will be some saltiness about the devs playing. I think there wouldn't have been any if the devs didn't all get to the top 4 teams, which is what ended up happening. I can see both sides of the argument. These boys are fairly young and they're gamers. and they only got their jobs because they're passionate gamers. Like, that's why they have their jobs, right?
And arguably, they're the best at the game.
But so that's where the side, because I talked to Newsom quite a bit, and they're like, they love playing. This is the only event they're allowed to play.
But like,
So they worked all day, and then they'd, like, Newsom's in a non-testing role now, but even the guys that test, in a non-development role, they'd go and they test after hours, which they're already playing 40 hours a week. The issue people are so the big issue, which no one can argue with me about, is the PTIs went down the drain for 3. That shouldn't have happened. They should have found a way to trickle those down to people that actually wanted to go to Lille, or, right? That seems to me a not well thought out thing. But then we talked about this just before turning the cameras on, like, okay, but most people that go and play that event at a high level also want the money from the gold foils and the prizing to afford to go to an event. But now you've got developers made the money, got the gold foils, got the PTI, are not allowed to play in Lille. So it's just money that doesn't go towards the community. It's now money that's... Now, the reason I say community, those same guys, they're not allowed to just pop up on the sales page and sell their gold foil either. It's a very bad look. You don't see them selling their... Like, some of them started playing before... Like, they got into alpha before joining LSS. Like, they have collections. They don't just pop up and sell their gold foils because it looks bad, because they work for LSS. But those guys now have gold foils, dollars in their bank account. Also, some of them carried other players to the top who may have no intention of playing at a professional level. Well, you got people that have intentions of playing at a professional level, maybe flew in from Singapore, Malaysia, to try and earn the money to go, didn't get a chance. Now, is it fair or not fair? Can you beat them? Yeah, I think they all dropped games. I don't think any of them went undefeated.
No one was undefeated.
But
yeah,
anyone that gets paid to play the game is going to have more reps. And because they're also talented, it's a pretty one-sided. Like, I don't think you had... Look, I can see what people... I'm not personally salty. Like, I think coming 9th was amazing. I actually made $200 paid for my event anyway. But I can imagine if I flew in from Singapore, I'm the best team in Singapore, and I came... this isn't a real story, I'm making this up, but let's say I came 6th. And I'd be looking going, well, if those 3 teams weren't there and 2 of them beat us, I'd be 2nd. Then I'm going to Lille with my team. And that, again, here's what I'm trying to say. I completely empathize with, I'm a gamer, I work for the company, I love playing the game, and I'd love to showcase my skills. But I can also see the other side where you still came in and took something that would have gone into the community, which has gone back into someone's hands who can't use it.
Okay, so, yeah, I hear what you're saying, and maybe the PTI thing is the one thing that I can get on board with. You know, maybe I can concede that point and say, okay, sure, maybe the PTI should have trickled down. Fair enough. But I don't know. I see a lot of upside, like the positivity and the hype about having them there, knowing that your people working for the company and developing the game actually love playing the game. They were there as a face. I don't think you can put a dollar value on that. Like, I met Newsom. I didn't get to meet the other LSS employees, but I got to meet Newsom, had quite a few conversations. I actually got to play a game against him in the draft, and phenomenal player. God, that guy's a wizard, you know.
No, he's a ninja.
Yeah, ninja, sorry. That's right. Hey, Newsom. Sorry, mate. So, you know, just to me, I see it as a net benefit. It's only 1 player per team. And I think it's a little bit of a, you know, I see it as if I owned LSS, you know, I'd almost treat it as, you know, somewhat like, I don't think it's rigged, John, because it is best of 3 and you have 2 people that
No, it's not rigged.
And I think I would treat it as almost like a company bonus. And I'd say to my folks that work for me, hey, listen, team, you're going to have an opportunity once a year to play. Go get them.
Have fun.
If you have some fun, you might win some cash prizes. That's a little bit. I know. They have inside things. I know that. I hear that. It's not a team of 3 devs.
No, it's also which event did they go to?
Yeah.
It's not like they sent 1 dev to each of the world events. 3 of the 4 winners in Sydney,
Yeah.
which ended up being faux Asia, not many Asia players, but there were enough people that flew from overseas. 3 of them are gone, Paul. 12, no, so yeah. Three of the top. So
It's only 3.
nine gold foils and a good chunk of the cash rewards, which people, some people came to the event and they gambled their savings to hopefully cash.
I would not do that.
No.
Do that.
What I'm saying, but the LSS guys did it. Is they told me they did it. They said like this would have sucked if I didn't top 4 because like LSS didn't pay me to come here. Like I had to come, right? So they had to buy tickets, visa if you need it, COVID test. It's not cheap. We just went to Jersey. It's not cheap.
But that shows they love the game.
I'm not arguing that they love the game. Obviously, they love the game.
Yeah.
But who pays for the game? Community does. You got to be careful taking from the community.
3 people out of, how many hundreds? I don't know. I don't.
Look, I'm not personally complaining. It is what it is. It's also the rules were pretty obvious before we got into it.
Exactly.
Noah's awfully quiet.
Exactly. It's teams of
I can't
3.
comment too much on this.
Yeah, of course you can comment.
It's-
I'm talking about opinion, by the way, because by the way, all of this,
Yeah,
whatever
it's
we're
just
saying, we
opinion.
all love the community. Like, there's no,
Yeah.
I'm not saying I'm salty because I didn't. Like, I feel like if those 3 teams were out, I would have come 6th and I would have made more money. That's not the point. I'm saying it's worth discussing.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Out of what's better for the community. I just think invitation-only events, I think LSS is big. What they should do for marketing purposes is send Newsom to Vegas for an event. He played Ira. He deserves to be in the top. If he can get to the top with Ira, good on him. But I'm saying it's still going to look like it's still an advantage. Is it rigged or not is irrelevant. It's not rigged. No one cheated. The judge didn't do favors. I saw people get IPs that win development teams. Let me say, like, they got treated like everyone else. Do they have an inherent advantage? You bet. They get to play with the best people in the world because they work with them. They get to talk to the people that make the game and go, hey, mechanically, mathematically, they know the rules better than we do. Now, it's just still in. Okay, there's also a very good reason not allowed to play non-team events, Paul. That's what I'm saying. If there's already that reason they can't play non-team events, you let them play team events, which still have a lot on the line, and that's what I'm trying to say. If it was a casual event, a skirmish, anything that's lower that they're allowed to play, but this was a calling.
Look, I can see they're towing the line. They're taking it right up to the line, but I don't think they're overstepping it. I don't think this was overstepping.
No, I don't think so either.
I don't think
But
so either.
I think, like, you're saying 3 people, 3 devs, lose a PTI, lose a gold foil. Sure. But there's 6 people who aren't devs, players, normal community members from New Zealand, who get their first PTIs, who get their first gold foils, get to have fun with that experience.
Yeah.
And it's also, I think, like, just for example's sake, LSS, like, cool, these 3 PTIs from these 3 devs go to the next team, figuratively speaking.
Sure.
But that's just 3 players who benefit from that, right? I think the overall community benefits greater from having the experience of meeting these devs, meeting the faces behind the screens
Yeah.
of the people who make the game, who test, and
but,
obviously who design the cards you are playing.
Yep.
And I think that's the greater opportunity for the community than it is for 3 PTIs down the drain.
And
personally speaking.
And they were willing to, like, speaking Newsom specifically, but he was willing to show me his deck.
Oh, they were all great.
He was
yeah.
willing to talk
Yeah,
to me
100%.
about why he ran certain cards. He was willing to explain to me some key concepts of approaching the game. Like,
Yeah.
where else would a Timmy like me be able to have
No, but
access to someone like that?
But see, those two aren't, like, they don't fit together. I completely disagree with both of you. You can't tell me that it outweighs it because you could have had that without them playing in the calling. Like,
I'm not saying it outweighs it.
Because when we went to Jersey, Chris Gearing was supposed to play in side events. That was the whole point. They advertised it. They're like, go play with the dev. Like, there's nothing. And
Side events not the same, John. The excitement and the energy and the electricity that you get from seeing that dev in an actual team of real fans, of real players.
Yeah, but
when
I didn't get to
when
see it.
stakes are on
But
the
like,
line.
So that's the same argument.
During day 1, during the
Yeah.
Friday, Jacob Pearson sat at the back playing slingshot games
Not
with
slingshot,
players.
what did they call it? Gunslinger.
Gunslinger.
You go play against
And there was
him,
like
yeah.
50 people crowded around
So
him wanting to get in.
That's what I'm agreeing with. That
Yeah.
that bit, obviously, you can't put them. You could have had that experience without it. Okay, it's not probably LSS can't just ship them, pay all their expenses as a work thing, right? Which means they wouldn't just turn up to do a gunslinger thing for the community. But what I'm actually saying is that's exactly what LSS should do and get them playing in events. Like, that's a huge marketing thing. Like, it's not that expensive to send one dev to one of these big events when they happen and go, like, he's there. He's in an LSS t-shirt. Like, he's there to play. He's there to coach. Like, he'll, you know what I mean? Or there to judge. Like, it's the same thing. Having a LSS judge around is a great thing. It's a great experience for judges, but it's a great experience for players. I'm not arguing with any of that. I'm saying, yes, but the proof's in the pudding anyway. You can tell me it's 3 people out of whatever, 100 or 240 players or whatever, but they all made it to the top. There's a reason for that. There's a reason Jason Chung can make it to the top with people that only played.
Because
like, he's
they're
on
good.
Kano, which is, of course he's good.
Yeah, but then you got a team, Hayden Dale's team. No LSS stuff, pure Aussie.
Yeah, it's Hayden
plus one friend
frickin'
from
Dale.
New Zealand. But I'm saying, like, that's a skill
Yeah.
level that we need to be.
Yeah, but it fills
to
a gap
beat
that
these.
doesn't exist. Do you understand
things.
what I mean? That is not your competition in Lille. That is not your competition in all the other big events. That's not your competition.
But Hayden Dale and his team is, right?
No,
and he's able to
listen,
compete with.
like I said, I'm not
the
salty
devs.
that I thought I could win if they weren't there. That's not what I'm saying. And I don't think Hayden Dale's salty either.
No, they want to
No,
play
no.
against the best. I can
100%.
guarantee you. I can guarantee you
100%.
that Hayden and that would want to play
But that's the
against.
skill level we're going to see at Lille. At the top tables, it's a bunch of Hayden Dales, it's a bunch of Nick Butchers, it's a bunch of Dans.
Yeah, but who it isn't is it's not a bunch of Jason Chungs.
But they're all on equivalent level, though.
No.
Well, maybe they're a little bit better.
No,
but
no.
I
It's
could
not
f-
What, you reckon
okay.
they're leaps and bounds
That's-
above? I don't
man,
know.
I wouldn't say so. I said
Listen,
they're close.
I said
Listen,
they're close.
This
very
isn't a
close.
game of reflexes. If it was a game like a sport, like it's physical, a different thing. It's whoever like is sometimes just youngest and talented. It's not necessarily, but this isn't a game of that. It's mental. It's chess. You can have grandmasters at 80 that you can't beat in chess. It's chess. It's card chess. It's maybe less complicated than chess, but there's a skill set. First, they get cherry picked because they're very good. That's why they work for the company. But then they also have access to every card and the brain behind it. Like they're testing.
But we also have access to those cards.
No, not in the same way. You have a job.
But we can.
It's not your
Yeah,
job.
but they don't have any
Yeah, yeah.
hidden information. It's
They
not like
don't
they
have
have a
any-
secret.
No,
They don't have a cheat
listen,
code.
I'm talking
They don't have a
about
cheat
the
code.
amount of in your life, even if you're a professional player. Like let's say you are a professional flesh and blood player. That's all you do. You found a way to make. That's all you do. You still don't have access to what they have access to. They have 40 hours a week to play. Yes, they're testing new sets in that, but it's still the mechanics and blocking and pitch stacking and those, that becomes second nature to someone who does it for a living, where most of us, this is still a hobby. We're not at the same level.
Yeah, so I'd agree they're more experienced.
Yeah.
I'd agree with that. I'd agree with what you're saying. They're more experienced. They
By
get
the way,
more-
again, they played, they won, they made us all look bad. That's not the point. Yeah. I only got to verse Jacob anyway. I didn't get to verse the others.
Oh, did you verse one of the devs?
Yeah, face to face. I mean, I was on Dory as an Oldham. There was no chance. To be honest, he may not know this. I was planning to take him to time. He was a little bit rude at the start. He was. We sat down
Tell me what you
and
really
he
think.
went, what did he say? He looked over at the time. He goes, so we got 28 minutes. I don't want this to go to time. I'm like,
It's
I
gone
haven't
time.
slow played. No, but I haven't slow played once. Like, where the fuck is that coming from? But then I saw my teammates were probably not going to win their matches either. And then I just let him have it. I was playing. I hate Oldham. I was just going to take it to time, just to spite the hero.
For the hero, spun the hero. Let's
100%.
let's put that out there. Spun the
100%.
hero.
It's not beatable
Not the
on
player,
Dory.
spun the hero.
Another boring as batshit, dry as wheat picks Oldham player.
Also, he was running like all the defense reacts. Like, what did he do? He staunch response me for 10. I'm like, oh, that's great.
And he still held the oath card to hold him react just in case.
What I tell Ryan Bell yesterday at the Armory, I blocked and said, if you red pummel me, I concede. Go. You decide. He didn't have a red pummel. Look, I'm being a bit negative, but I'm also trying to voice people's concerns. Like, and
Yeah.
by the way, I'm pretty sure LSS knows that they were towing the line pretty close. Like, you can't. It's still optics, not good optics when 3 of your devs get to the top 4 teams
Whoa.
in an event. It's not.
In
It's
your-
good. No, it's good optics if you're looking at it from the side of, well, now we know they're good, But I think everyone knew that it's not good optics from the amount of money and passion and energy spent. Potentially people, this is the start of their pro career, and they get punted out of a placement by someone that works for the company. It's always going to look unfair. It's like it's any event. I can name any event. It's like if I played Counter-Strike, which I did at a semi-pro level, and then like one of the developers, they're not allowed to play. There's a reason they're not allowed to play.
I think looking unfair, I think that's your opinion though. I think there are some players that don't think it's unfair. 100%
my opinion.
Like there's other people that don't think it looks
No, I'm
unfair.
saying I think there's plenty of both, and I'm voicing
Like, what
one
would the
side
opinion be is if they weren't working for the company anymore?
That's my point. Like
for
Sasha
example,
being it,
Sasha worked for the company.
Sure.
Not as a game dev, but
Sure.
he's 100% one of the most decorated players in Flesh and Blood.
Yeah.
Probably one of the best in the world.
Of course it's different.
Cleaned up at Pro Tour, top 8 on Wizard.
Yeah.
100% one of the brains behind that deck with Hayden and their team. And like he works for the company. And I think, but no one had that same opinion. Like if he was,
I did. In my head,
calling.
I did. I was like, they should have like I was in sales for a long time. If I worked for anything that had any sort of intellectual property or specific relationships you only gleaned from working for that, you definitely couldn't go back and work in that industry immediately. There was a non-compete cool down. Like you have too much information to go work for our competition, and you just got compensated for that. I'm sorry, but if you're a game dev for a company with an inherent advantage, someone like Sasha, the logic is maybe shouldn't be able to play pro events where he can get paid for a year. Should be part of his contract, because then he can ease back into the normal player pool with new cards and new sets and not be super on the gun. Now, is that actually what I'd enforce? No, I'm just saying there is that logic. Is if there's an advantage, they should also he shouldn't be able to leave a role at LSS and jump into the next event and win it. That looks very bad.
But I think it's not the cards, it's the skill. Because I think the ability, when I was judging, I was watching those tables. Jacob Pearson could 100% name the 13 cards he's just pitched. Like color, which way, left way, right ways, however. But same with some of the other players from New Zealand. Like, for example, Kale.
Yeah.
Like, after the game, he was telling me through exactly what he pitched, exactly how he did it.
Yeah.
And was telling me all this. Like, that skill is out there, not just in the devs.
And I'm not saying it is. It's still optics. It's still...
I know what you're trying to say.
But also, there's skills and there's reps. You can have that memory skill and you stop playing for a year and you will not be as good as someone who didn't stop. If you were started at the same... There's still practice. There's both. You can't have you can't have one or the other. It's both. You have to put the reps in and have talent or skill, because especially memory skill, you have to practice it. You lose it if you don't practice it. That's what I'm saying. If you're getting paid 40 hours a week to hone that skill, that's definitely an advantage over most of us in the hobby. Remember, hobby. Yes, there's a professional level to it. It's still most people's hobby. The game's not big enough to have pros that like live out of a suitcase and go. That does. But these are pros. They're professional players of Flesh and Blood. That's literally their title. You've got to be careful.
Yeah, okay. I see what you're trying to say.
Yeah. Now, do I care personally? No, I care more about the game, and I care more about the community and anyone looking at it and going, like, think about it from a new player's perspective, looking at it, going, hey, I used to be a Magic Pro and going, oh, there's LSS staff at events. Oh, they took out the 3 top teams had. That could look bad. You can't it can look bad.
Yeah, don't get me wrong though. There probably are, like you said, you're voicing the opinion of people out there.
Yeah.
However, I feel that opinion is the minority. Okay? That's my opinion. I think the majority, even the silent majority, are okay with it.
Yep.
I think it might be a few noisy minority. That's my opinion. I don't think the majority of people think that's a bad thing. I think it is some people, okay? It most definitely is, and your opinion counts, but I do think that's a minority. I really do.
But what if, for example, they ran 2 callings? One calling, like this one, no XP, no ELU, same pricing.
Yep.
Game devs can take part. Month down the track, you got a second calling, game devs can't. Would that fix the issue?
No. My real opinion is they shouldn't let devs play when there's that much on the line.
Okay.
Because they already have that rule. I'm not making that rule. Are they allowed at Pro Tour? No. Are they allowed at callings when it's constructed? No. Draft? No. Sealed? No. Why? Well, they know why. It's bad optics. The reason they allowed the team thing is because it's less spiky. Like, you can only have one. But we've learned this weekend that one's enough.
We've learned that Blitz is a skilled game. So any
Oh,
of
yeah.
you people spikes out there
That's crazy,
telling
huh?
me that Blitz is all about variance. No, it's not.
Nah.
Those
How
three
come the
devs,
best players
those
got to
three
the
devs
top, huh?
bloody showed you that it is a game of skill. Blitz is a game of skill. It's less forgiving. You can get high
Correct.
rolled, but you make one mistake, one forced or unforced error, you're gone.
Team Blitz is the best skill
I'm
format
telling-
in the game.
It is Blitz
There-
is
you
high
you always
skill.
have fun because when you don't have fun, your teammate has fun.
I'm interested to see what Team Constructed's like.
Oh,
No, take too
God.
long, man.
No,
Take too
no, we
long.
did it
No,
in
it's all
Magic.
at the same
You can
time.
do it.
Yeah.
50-minute games.
Yeah, you can
You're
do
on the
Team
same clock.
Constructed.
Yeah, but it's like why? Yeah, maybe that could be. I'll try it.
Team sealed, baby.
Yeah.
Well, funny thing is, like, when I was running the event, end of day one of calling, I get a text from Josh, who's the rules guy in LSS, in our group chat I'm sharing with the other head judges from Madrid and Vegas. He's like, hey, guys, specifically tagging Madrid and Vegas, here's the rules for team events. I was like, cool. It's only 24 hours late for us in Sydney.
So when's
But it
the
was
next
fun.
big event, Noah, that you're going to be judging at?
It'll be
RTNs?
well, I'm judging RTNs, but I wouldn't classify that as big. Just basically with the spread out of the Australian population, it's kind of hard to call any RTN
Yep.
big. But it'll probably be nationals. Will probably be the next big thing I'll be judging.
What state do you think nationals will be in? Can you give us a little...
As much as this pains me,
Melbourne.
most likely Victoria.
Do we know what month?
They
But
gotta
I'm just
switch it around.
I'm speaking purely off speculation.
What's wrong with
Like,
Canberra?
I don't know.
The capital.
It's Canberra.
Yeah, but it's probably more central, right? It's also a bit
It
cheaper.
depends on how
you
easy
can
it is to
fly
get to
in,
as well.
Accommodation's not too bad.
What month's nationals? Do we know yet?
October, November.
Okay.
That's when it was meant to be last year, so
Yep.
I'm assuming it'll be the same this year.
And then November we have Worlds.
Yes, well,
So it might be October before
maybe,
Worlds.
yeah.
Yep. Well, it's been a minute 40.
Nice. I
That
told
went
you.
quick.
No, once you get going.
1 minute 40, is that it?
Yeah. An hour 40, I should say. Last thoughts, what do you think? In
The
general,
weekend
and-
was amazing. Like,
yeah.
100%. Like,
Highlight.
thanks to everyone, the players, the staff, the judging, LSS, even the game devs.
Yeah. No, like I said,
Like,
they were
thank you.
they were amazing. Like with all said and done, happy to talk. They took photos of people, but definitely even from a game perspective, like while I was playing against Jacob, a lot of information, patient, very professional. And you could tell straight away, like there's not gonna be any rule sharking, nothing like that. They were just very on the ball. Bren was asking questions about prism auras. The guy was like, it was very. They won the event, but they didn't win it by being assholes or anything. Like they were like professional.
Like-
I emailed James. I tweeted it. I was like you can tell why the game and the company is so good when you see their staff, and they're all young. Like they're not, you know what I mean?
They're all
no
like
one's
our age,
senior. Yeah. They're like
They're a lot younger than me.
yeah, but they're professional. Like they're very well behaved. They're very they represent the company well for sure. There's absolutely zero complaints on that end.
Yeah, like if the weekend was run exactly the way it was this weekend,
I'd do it again.
I would do it again, 100%.
100%. Yeah.
Like I would not miss it for a heartbeat.
Maybe just don't be so late, whatever, things far enough late. Fix that somehow. Not your fault, I'm just saying. Things always started late.
Really?
Well, we blame
I thought they were
yeah.
pretty good.
the planes and tarmac. We'll blame
Sure,
the
sure.
public holidays. But yeah, do not regret it one bit. One of the greatest moments of my flesh and blood.
There's a rumor maybe. So you should shout out. You've got your own auction page.
Yes. Where
Yes.
can people
Do
find
you have
Shout it out.
international
Let's
people
go.
on there? Do you mind?
No, well, yeah, they can join. Feel
Yeah.
free. So I've kicked off Tin Street Markets.
Ooh.
But I do have a little bit of spice to put out there.
On
Yeah.
Facebook, right?
On
Tin
Facebook,
Street
on Facebook.
Markets.
It's 10 TIN Street Markets on
TIN
Facebook.
Street Markets.
Yep.
Premier Flesh and Blood auction page. But we will be transitioning, hopefully by the end of the year, to something special that will... I'm going to put it out there. I'm not going to give too much details. You guys are across
We've
it.
talked about it, yeah.
But it'll be something that will definitely shake up the whole of Oceania and Asia TC singles market in general. So
Well,
something to look forward to in a couple
The
months.
problem that needs solving in the oceanic region is there's nowhere right now to go, this is a deck I want to play. I saw Newsom play the Spicy Ira list. He sent me the list. I just want to buy it. It's tricky. We don't have... the Europeans have like Card Market or whatever it's called, where it's like in eBay for cards, and and the US's TCG plan. What we have is a lot of spread out single stores and our Facebook groups, which work, but they never work for a new player that just wants to buy a deck and go to an armory. They got to talk to 20 people and wait for 20 envelopes to arrive. Yeah. So if that problem ever gets fixed, it's very good for the game. Yeah. If that's what you're hinting at, we're all behind you.
Yeah.
No, that's good.
So final thoughts, John, for yourself?
Oh, look, again, all the rantiness aside, I have, this is something I definitely want to talk to James about when I see him. Not from a negative perspective, just to see how do you solve the problem of having your staff have fun because they just want a game and they want to show, like they want to prove their gaming chops as well, you know what I mean? Without ever taking away from the community. I think there's probably a balancing act. But this was the first one. They'll get feedback, they'll hear feedback, and they'll go for it. Otherwise, that was one of the best weekends of my life. That was fun. Made lifelong friends for sure.
Became an official Flesh and Blood Pro player.
Yeah, I got paid. I haven't been paid yet, but on paper,
clap.
On paper, I was in a team. Man, we were one away from earning the big bucks. Top 8. Top 8 was better money. Next time. How about you, Paul?
It was great. Just thanks to all my opponents that I met over the weekend. Everyone that came up and said g'day, hello. It was awesome. I met people from every state, every territory, a few people from overseas. Newsom, thanks heaps for chatting to me and getting to know you. It was awesome, showing me the ropes. And, I think it was a great event. I'll definitely look forward to doing it again. And, Noah, thanks for coming, mate. What'd you think,
Thanks, Judge
Thunder?
Noah.
Will you ever come back?
Anytime you guys want me, I'll be...
Who should we have as our next guest from the Australian scene?
Someone with a big mouth.
Yazzie!
Someone with
Yazzie! Oh, you can't
a
hear it.
Yazzie button.
Yazzie!
Is that a mic mute button?
No, it's just Yazzie's name.
We might need a mic mute button, though.
No, I think we should have Yazzie on next. I got to talk to him. But if he watch it, hey, Yazzie, you're invited. If you actually bother to watch our content, mate, you can come.
Yeah, no one tag him. Let him find it on
that's
his
what
own.
I mean. If he hears it or someone tags him, he knows he's in.
Otherwise, there's a long list of people,
There's a long
Yahtzee,
list.
that will
Hayden's not on it.
Have someone interstate as well.
Look,
experience different communities will be fun.
We want to do both. Want to call people in, but also see if we were more set up, knowing the calling was happening, we should have roped a couple of people in and done some episodes or take equipment down there. But this is episode 4. It's slow as we go.
And it's doing great. You guys are pumping it.
Yeah, we love it. I mean, we
Quality
do it.
content.
We talk all the time about Fab. Now we just record it. That's all it is.
Yeah, basically.
Because we jump in the car, an hour drive, we just chat about the game. And we do whinge. That's the thing. On our own channels, we're not negative. And on here, we're not negative. But we criticize. We want to solve things. And it's always in the same purpose of growing the game.
We disagree with each other and
which is fine.
have a bit of fun.
I mean, Paul's always wrong. It's a Timmy. It's fine. Okay.
He's a tour Timmy. But congratulations again, Timmy, cracking your first legendary.
That's sick. Yeah.
Thank you.
Too bad it
It's a
wasn't on
good
camera.
one, too.
Yeah. Save me some money.
Like, it could have been Shock Charmers or something. That's a card that goes in Manny decks, I believe. Yeah. Alrighty.
I'm
we're
pumped. What are we doing after this?
We're going to hopefully, we got to check our phones, but when we do, if enough people, I've got this lounge area downstairs. If you're on Twitter, you've seen it. We're going to go draft some Uprising with Judge Noah's box. Judge
baby.
box.
One of the conversation boxes.
All I can say is force those heroes team. Just force them.
Just force them. There's only 3. You can't be wrong.
Just-
you can't be that wrong.
It's a 33% chance.
I've never seen 8 fires in a draft
Just
yet.
pick it and commit, baby.
It's bound to happen, right?
Eventually.
Probably not. All right, guys, we're going to sign off. See you soon.
Cheers.
See you guys.